Hi, everyone. My name is Eden Cohen, and I'm the founder of A Wider Frame. Welcome to our first podcast. Today, I'm meeting with two Israeli medical clowns who join me to talk about the power and philosophy behind therapeutic clowning, life in Israel as a country of trauma and great resilience, and their work with the amazing Clownbulance and Dream Doctors. Thanks so much for joining us.
My corona.
Cha,
My
corona.
corona.
My corona.
My corona.
La 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 la. My
Corona.
La 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 la. Hava corona. Hava corona. Hava corona. Venismecha. Hey. Okay. Hey, how are you? Shalom, shalom,
Hello.
everybody. Hey, how are you?
Okay, wait on.
Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Wait up. Hi, everybody. Greetings from Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. I'm honored to be able to introduce to you Smadar Harpak and Nimrod Eisenberg, two Israeli medical clowns. Should I say Shemesh and Max? Their clown names. Before I was able to see Shemesh and Max in action, I had never really heard of medical clowns beyond the film Patch Adams. And I think it's really something you have to see to believe. So I'm glad we're here on video today to see it in action. And I'm sure you'll get an amazing taste of the work they do now. What exactly is a medical clown? What do medical clowns do? And how do you operate in Israel?
So, wow.
What is a medical clown?
What is a medical clown? What is a clown? So, and how does it become therapeutic? So that's basically our job here in Israel. We're part of this beautiful project called the Dream Doctors Project, which is about bringing the power and the energy and the beauty of laughter and joy into the therapeutic establishment, into hospitals, and into therapy procedures. Clowns have been around since always. There's a very ancient character coming from theater. And the clown, if you think about Charlie Chaplin, for example, so the clown is the character that deals with problems and obstacles and failures and finds the imaginative way to solve them without a conflict. That's what's beautiful about clowns. Quite a few years ago, over 30 years ago, clowns and clown organizations started to go to hospitals and bring this wonderful art to the therapy process and help these children and families that are dealing with difficulties and problems to overcome their emotional state and to give them an emotional support through laughter, through joy, and through the power of coming together, basically, being friends.
Can you explain a little bit how Dream Doctors places the clowns in the hospitals in Israel?
Sure. So as you guys, I guess people know Israel is a very informal culture, let's say. We are, it's a very diverse culture with a lot of cultures inside of Israel. And it's a culture that permits to experiment and to try new things. We work in over 30 different hospitals around Israel, where every hospital has a team, a designated team of clowns that work regularly, regular shifts, regular hours and clinics. And by doing that, they are able to really be a part of the medical staff that helps the children and their families. The clown can be the bridge. I mean, a clown, what is a clown? It's like an adult that plays like a child. In that sense, he can bridge the gap between the medical staff their needs, and the children and their emotional state. And so what we do is to place these clowns and let them work and let them develop their own project in the hospitals in Israel.
So how does treatment normally work with a medical clown? Are there certain procedures that are different now that you're part of them?
Sure. Yep. There's our clowns work in the hospitals where they are where they have their project, and it works in a way that sometimes the medical staff won't even start the procedure if it's something scary, for example, blood tests or different kinds of syringe and different kind of these scary moments.
Yeah.
The clowns would play with the children, accept them to the clinic, play with them, relax them, maybe show them a little bit of what's going to happen, and then accompany them throughout the procedure in a way that the medical staff can, the doctors, the nurses can focus on their job while the clown takes care of the emotional side.
Yeah. We can give some examples.
Sure.
Like in surgery room, we work with the child from all the way to the surgery room and till he's
Yeah, the anesthesia.
Anesthesia.
And
But you have full access to basically every room in the hospital where every procedure is going on.
Yes, we do, but it depends on the relationship between the clown and the staff and the medical team.
Mm.
And this is what's so beautiful in it.
Yeah.
Like we create this relationship step by step so they trust us and they let us go inside this room.
Let's also point out that obviously our clowns are part of the medical staff, also in the hygiene protocols and in every kind of protocol and regulations. So the clowns are free to go into any clinic in any room, but of course they are observing all the measurements and everything we need, like the, how do you say, we keep it clean. We can just point out as well that, as you know, again, Israel is a country of research. We like to question everything. We like to see everything. How does it work and how can we do it maybe differently? For us as researchers, as clowns who are trying to find new ways to help people, it's a wonderful thing. So we are free. Doctors in Israel, for example, they don't wear white coats.
Yeah.
It's not in the culture. They wear normal clothes. And so they also, in that sense, enable us to take part, to see how we can affect, to see how can we help. And of course, we also deal a lot with the parents and the medical staff themselves, taking care of their emotional state, making them laugh, making them have more fun in their work in a way that will benefit everybody.
So what kind of training do you get to be able to do this type of work? And I know many of you are trained actors. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and then also what kind of training do you get before you enter the hospital?
The basic formation or the basic study for medical clowns is theater. All of our clowns are theater actors, actresses, directors, screenwriters, etc., people who are active performers, who are still today doing shows involved in creative projects.
Yeah.
They have a few shifts a week, a weekly shift, at least 2 or 3 days a week, where they work in a hospital. So their study as actors, as theater people, is what helps them to be creative, to be energetic, and to bring a lot of new ideas to the hospital.
Yes, it's very important for the clown to bring this clowning to the hospital. You must have the skills to be a clown. And it's something that you learn all the time. Every year we do like seminars and crusades and everything. And it's very important to bring these skills, because if you are not a clown, it's the main issue is that you come with this character and you stay with this character, and the people you meet, even if they're like kids or they're adults, they want to meet the clown. They don't want to meet the person behind the clown, because all the other people in the hospital, they are the person. And the clown is like the outsider.
Mm-hmm. Our organization, the Dream Doctors, gives a lot of seminars and workshops. And as for what you've asked, how do we teach these clowns at the beginning? So they do a 5 months course within the Dream Doctors, which brings the therapeutic side. So we teach them about the protocols of a hospital, a little bit the basics of psychology and child development. We also teach a lot of equivalent, like similar areas, like music therapy and movement therapy and different kinds of therapeutic approaches that gives the clown a wider look at how can we affect the emotional state of our patients.
Yeah, and when you are as a clown work at the same ward for a while, so you learn it. You became part of the team. For example, I work in the oncology with children that deal with cancer, and I know every one of them, the story of the family, what they have, what is like the thing that will make them most cooperate. So it's a thing that you need to be very serious about it. It's like we're doing our clowning, but in a very professional way.
We take clowning seriously.
Yes, we're a serious clown.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue to my next question, which is trauma is often a part of your day. How do you deal with that?
So first of all, since we're talking about actors, if you think about it, actors in theater is all about drama. I mean, actors are people who look for drama and stories, tragedy and comedy, looking for human emotions and human relations. And so actors are the right characters for this kind of work. Now, you mentioned that the work is not easy and it is a daily trauma work. Our clowns, first of all, are a part of the medical staff, so they have a lot of support around them. They're not alone. They talk to the nurses, the doctors, the social workers, the psychologists. But also, we as a team of clowns, we try to do a regular meeting where we share stories and we talk with each other and relieve our emotions together. You remember in one of our travels, in one of our missions, we had a rule. Every evening, we have to sit down for 33 minutes and 33 seconds and talk about the day, even if we have nothing to say. Yeah. We're going to sit there for 33 and 33. And that was a wonderful technique that helps us relieve our emotions.
It's the best way because we have the skills to process trauma for other people. So we have also the skills to process this trauma for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And I have to mention at the end of the day, we meet a lot of smiling children. Of course, these children are sick or in a bad situation, but we meet a lot of energy and a lot of hope in the hospital.
Yeah, I always say that in the hospital, there is like 30% of the stories that will end like in the bad way. And it's very sad, but the other 70% is in a good end and a smile. And we know that what we do for them, it's so special and so unique. So it's give us power to continue to do.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And it is so unique. I have a question about the diversity in the hospitals. You know, Israel is a culturally diverse place. And how does this reflect on your work? Do Palestinians also get treated in Israeli hospitals?
Sure, they do.
Yeah, they do. And we have a lot of patients from the Palestinian territories or from Gaza, for example.
How does that work?
Well, that's the magic of clown.
Yeah, and actually that's the magic of being in hospital, because in the hospital, everybody is in the same boat. There is a peace in the hospital.
Great equalizer.
Because we are all war in the same war. Like we all fight in the disease. We're all fighting the same war. It doesn't matter if you're coming from Palestine, if you're coming from Gaza, if you're coming from Russia, if you're coming from Spain, if you're coming from Israel, if you're religious, if you are non-religious, it doesn't matter.
Israel is a multicultural country anyway, and so in every ward, in every department you would work in, you would have Russian descendants, Ethiopian descendants, French, American. You would have to work in so many languages and cultures, not even talking about religious, non-religious, extra-religious, ultra-religious, minor religious. So there's so many of these, this mix in Israel. That's why the clown, which essentially is a non-verbal art, because basically the clowns work with movement and sounds, and they are the ones who are again able to bridge over these cultural gaps. And so often you would see a clown playing with a ultra-religious child and an Arab child and a Tel Aviv child from Tel Aviv, and so you see this mix, and they all come together.
Yeah, and humor is the universal language, and it's very nice that we don't need to know the language of the person that we meet to communicate.
Yeah.
Have you developed any long-lasting relationships with the patients that you work with?
Let me tell you a short story relating still to what you've asked about the Palestinians, because I know this is probably a subject that is interesting for many of your viewers. So for those of you who don't know, Palestinian people get treated in Israeli hospitals all the time. It doesn't need to be a special thing. They don't need to be wounded by them or anyway. They are, especially in oncology or long-term disease, they are treated in Israel in our hospitals. By the way, there's also many Arab Israelis in the staff, doctors, nurses, etc. The hospitals are really an island of sanity, we call it. It's the place in Israel where everybody comes together. So a short story is about one of these kids that we met many years ago, at least, let's say 10 years ago, we met him. His name is Abdallah, and he comes from Gaza. And he had cancer. He was a 12, 13-year-old kid. And we knew him and played with him and were part of his story for about 2 years. Then Abdallah got better. He got over his disease and he went back to Gaza. And a few years later, he finds us on Facebook and connects to us on Facebook because now he is a clown in Gaza.
Yeah,
Wow.
Create a group of medical clowns in Gaza, which is the first group ever over there.
So that was a wonderful story.
When you met him?
We met him, he was an young adolescent, let's say around 13 years old.
Oh,
he was hospitalized for about 2 years, and then a few years passed on, and then he found us at around the age of 20. And right now, still today, he is working in Gaza. He's also a paramedic, but he's working as a medical clown. And so in Gaza.
Did you help train him? I mean, I'm sure just being in the hospital with you, he learned from you. But after the fact, do you still keep up with him?
Sure. He came over to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem a few times, and he did a few rounds of studying and working with us closely. And still today, whenever he can come over, which is not often, we meet him, we give him whatever we can in terms of costumes, red noses, etc. And we really love this guy.
Oh, that's incredible.
I'm just saying that's just one story about the long-term effect. And for example, Smadar in the oncology department develops amazing relationships with families for years.
I know you guys also travel to disaster zones. Medical clowning is so important to the country that Israel's field hospital actually always now travels with a medical clown. You also travel to places where horrible tragedies have occurred, such as the Pittsburgh Tree of Life synagogue shooting. Can you share a little bit about your work abroad?
Sure. So first, I think the main thing is that in Israel, we are going through trauma almost every day. So we start in Israel to create groups of clowns that go to trauma zones in Israel and process the trauma over there with children, with adults. And so when we get outside of Israel, to disaster zone, we have already the methods that we create here.
Again, Israel is a country under constant trauma in one way or another.
Explain that a little bit more.
Well, you know, there's not 1 week goes on where we don't have some sort of violence, unfortunate violence, down south on the border with Gaza, up north, the border with Lebanon, the whole friction line with Palestinians, and after the huge trauma of the Holocaust. So Israel in itself is a country that came out of, let's say, the ashes of a huge tragedy and found a way to develop and grow. Still today, we are simply, that's our fact of life. We see attacks, we see bombs, we see a different kind of tragedies almost on a daily, at least a weekly basis. It's part of being an Israeli. And another part of being an Israeli is to still remain optimistic, happy, big families, a lot of food, a lot of life, a lot of culture, a lot of happiness. You know, in every international measurement where they measure the happiness of populations, Israel comes up pretty much on top. People here have a tough life, and still they enjoy it, and still they feel it's an interesting and good life. And so us as clowns, we feel that that's our ability to contribute joy, strength, resilience, and happiness in times of trouble. Now, let me tell you an amazing story that happened today. Today, practically really today, we were sitting in a TV studio getting ready for an interview like this one. And this interview was scheduled weeks ago, and we were ready for it. And then as we were about to come up, suddenly they stopped the programming and they had to move to the news department because there was an attack. Because just today, unfortunately, a religious Jew was murdered in the street of Petah Tikva. And so this thing happens to us all the time. And the secret in Israel is that even though these tragedies occur all the time, we still believe in good, and we still find strength, and we still find in each other and with other people the ability to overcome and to remain positive. In a nutshell, this is what being a medical clown is all about. Is facing a sad story, a tragic event, and still remaining optimistic, bringing light into it, bringing laughter and joy, connecting people together, even though situation is not easy. And for those of you who visited Israel, you know it's a very vibrant country, full of life, full of art, full of culture, full of business. We live as if everything is fine around here. This is part of the coping mechanism, let's say, that Israelis have, where something terrible happens, we are extremely sad over it, but then we take our stuff and we go out for dinner in a restaurant. And that's part of our life. I think it's also a little bit in the Jewish tradition, other than being Israeli. The Jewish tradition is about, especially Jewish humor, is about laughing when things are tough and laughing at sad moments. And so just by the fact that we are used to living like this, and as medical clowns, we keep the smile and we bring happiness, we bring joy, even though the things are not well, it enabled us to develop techniques, methods, and possibilities to bring these abilities also outside of Israel. Again, for those of you who know Israel, we cannot, it's an island. Basically, we live in an island. We cannot take the car and drive outside of Israel because of the situation with our neighbors. And so that's why you meet Israelis wherever you go, right? Right? I mean, there's an Israeli on every mountain in the Himalaya and in every forest in Peru. So that's a little bit our style. We like going outside of Israel and being in contact with other cultures.
Do you train other non-Israelis when you go abroad in medical clowning?
We sure do. We have a whole educational department with Green Doctors where we do courses, seminars, workshops outside of Israel. Again, our experience enables us to go to teach other people the ability to withstand trauma and keep a smile on and keep the hope moving.
2 years ago, we've been in Germany. We have a project that we work, we came as clown to Germany to work and train how to work with refugees that just arrived from many other countries. They don't have the culture, they don't have the language. And it was amazing because I remember the first time we went there, it was 2 months after my grandma died, and she was a survivor from the Holocaust. And it was like for me to came to Germany and work with German people to train them, and at the same time to work with kids that came from Syria. It was like a circle of love that we create a new world that it's much better than my grandma had when she was a child.
Our clowns have the flexibility and the ability to come to these places of sometimes terrible disasters and immediately be a part of the therapy process, bringing emotional support, bringing a breath of fresh air, bringing people the ability to look each other in the eyes, to find renewed strength inside of them.
Yeah, and help children that don't have the words to express what they feel, to express it without words.
I want to shift the focus a little bit to the Clownbulance because we haven't hit on that yet. It's an incredible project that Smadar started. Can you tell us a little bit about the Clownbulance? How does it work and what inspired you to start it?
So as we say, before I work in the oncology departments, what means that I meet this children and family for a long-term relationship. And I realized that the only things they can dream about is to dream about to be healthy, to win the disease, and they can't think about normal life. And I think to myself, we bring this dream and fantasy to the hospital, we must give them opportunity to dream and to have a day all together with joy and pleasure and love and fun and smiles outside of the hospital, because the hospital is always the disease. And outside the hospital, we can remember which family we were before the disease and what we want to create beside the disease.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so my imagine was that we come with a very crazy car, very clownish car, and take them from the hospital or from their own home or from the hospice to her daydream. Their daydream can be anything.
Have you heard of Make-A-Wish?
Sure.
Okay, so a little bit like that.
But here, the difference is that we know them before the Make-A-Wish day and very long, and after. So we know them. We know what is the main issue. We know what they need now as a therapist. We know what we can give them in a whole day that we're with them, because in the hospital, we run from bed to bed, from ward to ward, from child to child, and we don't have this boost of many, many hours that we can be together with this family, with the brother of the child, the sick child, they have brothers and sisters that feels like nobody cares about them now anymore because it's all around the sick child. So it's like a new medicine, the Clownbulance. It's if there is an ambulance for the body, there must be a Clownbulance that is an ambulance for the soul.
I love that. Can you tell us about a few of the different activities you've done with some of your patients in the Clownbulance?
Sure. So basically the beautiful thing about it is that it's like a dream come true for this kid, because this huge colorful van comes over, the clowns come out of it. Wait, did we mention, was it clear that the clowns know these children and the families for months before, and they develop the dream? What is this kid dreaming about? Clowns and artists, we know about dreams, we know about fantasy. So we can help these children develop a very special and specific kind of a dream that they would have. And that's when we eventually take them out. Also, by the way, in Consilium, in talking with the medical staff to see when is the most effective time. Maybe it's before another session of treatments. Maybe it's before some surgery. Maybe it's after some winning over something. So we know when's the right time to take these children. And then we start the day, which is always a wonderful, colorful day.
Yeah. Example from the last week, we took a את מוחי. He's a child
from Gaza.
That he doesn't have like בטח שזה מילה.
כן, אבל amputated.
מתחילה.
He's amputated. He's without hands.
Yes, so Muhi is without hands and legs. And for his birthday, he wants to have a flight over Israel.
He dreamt of flying. He wanted to fly.
Yeah, to be a pilot for one day.
Yeah.
And after the flight, they told us that we bring him a day that he forget that he's like have problems. He forget that he doesn't have hands and legs because he fly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a wonderful day, the flight.
So you guys took a flight together.
Yeah, but we did more than that because the clowns bring the part of fantasy and the part of imagination. So we brought a lot of pilot hats.
Yeah.
Okay, and inflate like planes, toy planes. And the whole day was around being a pilot. And Muhi was a pilot with a pilot hat and an official captain kind of approach. And so the clowns were his assistants, and we had planes, small toy planes flying around. So that's the benefit of the clowning in this Make-A-Wish project, where it's not just fulfilling this thing, but it's bringing it into the world of children, how children see the world. It becomes a cartoon. The whole day is like a cartoon.
Yeah.
We fill it up with ideas and colorful moments. And another beautiful thing about it is that everybody around us, the people because we travel around Israel with these wishes, everybody sees clowns and the children. And so people get involved even more. I'll never forget one story, for example, where we finished the wish itself, and we were sitting on the beach eating lunch, because Smadi made it so from the very first wish that we always finish by eating together in a restaurant. Because she said that's the time where we take off the nose, where we sit together, where we really have an informal and personal meeting with the children. So we were sitting with this kid, and the lifeguard of the beach, like an old lifeguard, a legend, he passed by us, and he saw this story, like the clowns, and he said, "What's happening? What's the story?" So they explained to him. He said, "Come with me." And he took this kid, and they went up the lifeguard tower, and he gave him the microphone, and he told them, "Tell everybody now, everybody, blah, blah, blah." And he gave him a whistle, and the kid was out of his mind. It was beautiful, and it was just a coincidence which we couldn't have programmed even. So that's the beauty of the Clown Vilance. It brings a lot of people into this wonderful activity.
Yeah, and unfortunately, many times this wish is like their last wish.
And it's something that you can build up with them, that they can really look forward to, and it means so much to them.
Yeah, and for the family.
Different wishes that we've done in the past are things like physical activities, like flying in an airplane, flying in a helicopter, flying in a hot air balloon. That was wonderful. Sailing on a boat.
Then swim with dolphins. There was a child that he was like 7 years old, and he wanted to swim with dolphins. And the only place that we can do it in Israel is in Eilat. And his leg is stuck right, like he can't move his leg. So they said that it's a huge problem because he needs to swim with the dolphins, and there is no insurance. Is he too small? He's like 7 years old, and it's only from 10 years old. But everybody do anything to create a new insurance only for him, only for this date that he can they can make this dream come true with us. And what was amazing that once he got into the water, there was one dolphin that just stuck to him and didn't move from him all the way.
How many of these experiences are you able to do in a year?
Around 120.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced in building this and in running the Clownbulance?
Well, okay, so we are clowns, but we realize that we have to raise money if we want to get to all the kids that need this day of dream come true. So we actually create a campaign that we call to anyone who can put, even if it's $1 and even if it's $1 million, to help us to make dreams come true.
So it's basically, it's just you guys. I mean, and some other clowns who give their time to this project, but otherwise it's really just you who's doing everything from the fundraising to the planning to the execution.
This day to create everything, to make the atmosphere, to make the design, to buy the things that we need to bring to the child, to call to the restaurant, to ask them if they can help us, and to invite us to the restaurant, and everything is by our ends.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty small operation. Smadi runs most of it. There's a few more people that help her, and obviously we have all the dream doctors, which is many clowns, which take part in the activities. But it's a very small operation, but we have a huge demand, and so we keep on growing and growing. We've added more vehicles right now. We've added more ambulances, and so our biggest obstacle right now, obviously, is budget. That's the only thing that stops us from doing more and more and more activities. And it doesn't stop us, actually, because we are handling over 100 wishes per year, and we're ready to handle more. Yeah. Smadi is a very modest person, so she wouldn't tell you that one time she even did the whole thing at her house, because we didn't have a different place to go to. So a special birthday for a kid at her own house. And even today, this afternoon, we've had a kid and his mother here watching a movie together because they needed this relief. They needed this time with us alone. And basically this whole organization is a very personal organization where we do it because we believe in it. Take a look at the link below. Look at the link below. Right now, we're doing a fundraising campaign.
That anyone can donate from $1 to
$1.5 million, maybe. You are also welcome.
Where in the world people can donate to you?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
It's important to say it's a tax-deductible recognized donation in North America, that is the US and Canada, in Britain as well, in England as well, and obviously in Israel. And it's a full guarantee of activities, obviously, and the tax deductible aspect. With the Clownbulance activities, we will be happy to talk about any idea. We use a lot of professionals. We have pilots and trainers and restaurant owners and artists and so many people that have helped us during the years. So we'd love to talk about any idea. And at the end of the day, we can use the budget for making more good, more smiles, more understanding, more bringing people together here in Israel and all over the world.
Thank you both for your time and for joining me today. Your work is amazing. I'm so excited to share the work of the Clownbulance and Dream Doctors, and thank you both for everything you do.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And as they say,
thank you. Bye bye and hello. COVID-19.
Happy Corona, everybody.
Thank you all for listening to our first ever podcast. Subscribe to hear more at awiderframe.com.